Very cool.
Yeah, I can't wait until this band drops more music, because this song's absolutely killer.
Yeah, it gave me like older metalcore, post-hardcore vibes with the breakdowns, and that screaming was really excellent. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, I really like I don't know if it's just two vocalists or what. I assume it's two, a clean and a harsh vocalist, but their screaming technique is awesome, because they've got that like very in-your-face like Fry scream, but then they can also kind of do, you know, the lower thing, and then you know, I don't know the names of all the different techniques, but they did like 4 or 5 different like harsh vocal scream techniques just in that one song, and they all sounded really good.
And that takes a lot of technique. One of the things I really love about our vocalist Brad Pallone is, and you hear it a lot on some of these new songs, is I do a lot of the mid-range high screams, and Brad is able to come in and just hit these awesome monstrous lows, which is so crazy because his vocal voice is so much higher than mine. He has that sort of, you know, Anthony Green, Tillian, Donovan Malero element where it's, you know, it's a higher pitched vocal, which is awesome for post hardcore music. But the fact he's able to just bring out these deep, just ooh. It always just makes me chuckle.
It's always really funny to me when somebody's like speaking voice doesn't match up to how their singing or like screaming voice sounds. You're like, how did that come out of you? What?
Oh man, there's some of the noises these people make, I'm just like flabbergasted.
Dude, there are some people, like, I mean, if you get into like, you know, deathcore and like that kind of stuff, like you know, the likes of you know, Alex Terrible, or what was the vocalist from Lorna Shore?
Will Ramos, is that the guy?
Yeah, him. Like those two guys are insane with what they can do. It's not quite like this same style, because a lot of it's like much more harsh and a lot harder to understand. But like, if you can appreciate like just the raw technique and talent of it, it's just insane.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Will Ramos, because I had no intention of bringing this up, but I figure I might as well now.
Okay.
One of our so Jonathan's partner, Bianca, is a game designer and works for a company called ACS Games. They're working on this game called Crystalla, which is like a fantasy RPG coming to a bunch of consoles. But the cool element about that is they have a bunch of metalcore vocalists voicing the monsters in the game.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that idea so much.
It's been in development for a while, and we've definitely been following and supporting, but Crystalla is the game, and I don't think it has like a release date or anything right now. It's still in development, but the concept of that, and seeing it come together with the recordings and everything is really incredible. So it's something to look out for, and I just thought it was funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's such a fun idea. I love that so much. Another thing that I think is interesting about this band right here, right now, I have to imagine that they have been in other fairly influential like bands in the Jacksonville scene, because they only have the one song out. They released it like a couple of months ago, and they're still like in like the mid 600s for like monthly listeners. Normally, if you only have one song out and you don't follow it up right away, like the numbers fall off pretty quick. So I have to imagine that they have kind of a built-in fan base from previous projects and stuff like that. Because
For sure. No, that makes sense.
I really haven't seen a whole lot else of their like social media content, but I would have to imagine that they're probably keeping up on that a little bit too, because like they're related artists. I see some bands that I recognize from doing a lot of stuff on like TikTok and Twitter and stuff like that. So I would imagine that probably has something to do with it too.
A big thing for us to sort of get through that lull period, like you were talking about, from 2018, 2019 to now, where we just weren't releasing anything. We had done an ad campaign on one of our songs, videos, Oslo, at some point after the release, put together by a gentleman called Anthony Pacheco, who I think is done with that industry now, but still has relevant impact in it. It was able to net us like a 300 plus monthly listener for the last like 4 years. And those are dedicated followers who, you know, enjoy your music on a consistent basis without you having to put anything out.
What kind of ad campaign was that?
YouTube ad campaigns. So it would be, you know, the ads that would come up before your videos.
The pre-roll ads.
Exactly. And so, you know, I don't know if it was just the right targeting that he used or what, but it was able to net us these 300 or so followers from all over the globe. It's not just local to the U.S. that have stuck with us, and it's something that we're incredibly grateful for. And I think, you know, when you get your music in front of the right audience, and sometimes that can be done through TikTok. A lot of times I think it is now, but it's a variety of ways. But once you find those dedicated listeners, they can really provide you support, and so I think that's awesome. That they're able to do that. I hope they're able to maintain it.
I heard about it a while ago. I think it was the like 1,000 true fans theory or something like that, which is basically saying that like if you can get 1,000 true fans who are really like following your music, then that is probably when you are at the point that you can start to try and like live off of it and pursue it full time.
That makes sense.
Because at that point, then you have not a huge fan base, but a sizable one that is dedicated to you. Whereas like if you've got a ton of fans for like a couple months, that's not nearly as sustainable, you know, with the massive spikes that you can get with internet virality and things like that.
It doesn't always transition to monetary investment, you know. I like a lot of different music, but I'm not as inclined to go buy the vinyl pressing of everyone I like. You know what I mean? That's people who I really want to support. So I totally agree with that sentiment. If you can get that many people who actually believe in what you're doing because it affects them or for whatever reason, that'll sustain you. That'll keep you afloat, especially when you need it.
I kind of have the same sort of thing too. I love to buy physical releases, CDs, vinyl, whatever. But obviously you can't afford to buy that for everybody. So often I will, you know, sure. Spotify is the main discovery and listening method, but if I find that there's an album that I listen to on a regular basis, that's when I go, okay, I'm gonna purchase this because it's something that clearly I really enjoy, and so it's worth putting the extra money into. All right, so what was the thing that you were trying to introduce earlier that we?
Well, and I think it still fits in the vein of post-hardcore and metalcore that we were talking about. Cool. This is a band called Novu Mora, who fairly new in the community, but in a lot of ways, I feel like musically are very much far ahead of where they should be as a band. They are really great songwriters, have some of the best hair I've ever seen in a band or what have you.
I can
just
appreciate
incredible
that.
Locks, curls. As a bald man, I can respect it. But in a lot of ways, it's funny, I call them and a couple other bands my children, just because as a person who's just been around and made enough mistakes to know what to do and what not to do, I'm very lucky that some of these young people and artists will come to me for advice on stuff like booking and content and things like that. And these are one of those folks, and I really love all of them. I think they're incredible musicians, and really excited to see what they do next, because the music they put together just feels very professional. And I think with the right sort of audience, the right thing just hits, they're gone. You know, the rockets strapped to their back, and incredible vocals, heavy riffs, screaming, gives me like a Veil of Maya, Kill Switch Engage sort of vibe.
Oh, all right.
But
I'm into that.
But the singer, Jade Crosby, she just has these brilliant melodies, and they're incredible. So I'll get that pulled up here.
I think that it's also great for, those younger artists to have somebody like that to go to as like a sort of like mentor in the scene. I think that that's a really great thing for them to have, that I think probably a lot of people should probably seek out,
Mentorship in any aspect is going to be super beneficial. And I think a lot of that stuff just sort of gets overlooked, and not enough people treat, when people talk about treating music and your art as a business, that has such a negative connotation, because I think it takes people think it takes the artistic and creative element out of it. But in my opinion, that is what starts after the creative stuff is done. You can't just be creative and spontaneous and colorful all the time. And a big part of giving yourself that platform is putting in the hours and putting in the work to make that stuff relevant. It's weird to see sort of bands that... Oh, excuse me. I just lost my train of thought completely. A bug just went right past my head, and I just lost it. So,
all right. Well, what's the next song?
Next song is 3.0 by Novu Mora. Mentorship. Like I was saying, one of the big elements for me just coming out of like business and operations and having like a 9 to 5 in that is the fact that you can learn so much from people who aren't necessarily like successful, because a lot of time those people don't have time for you. It's people who have made mistakes and fallen on their face that have the best advice because they've seen it. You know, they've seen the success and they've seen the failures. They may be more familiar with the failures, but that's probably more important because that's going to protect you from repeating the same mistakes. And so if anything, you know, I just hope that some of these artists that I talk to and you know, I'm lucky enough for them to come to me for advice, that I can just help them steer clear of some of the mistakes that I've made. It's not like I know what I'm doing, you know, I know what not to do again. So this next song is called 3.0 by Novumora.